You're listening to
They're gonna call it a hard foul. They're gonna call it a hard foul.
Happy 2025, everybody. It's January 2nd. This is our New Year's edition of They're Gonna Call It a Hard Foul. I'm with my brother Mike, and Mike, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We are gonna do the worst takes of 2024 in regards to Celtics basketball. We could have really made this a huge episode and did worst takes of Celtics basketball and everything else in 2024 because there certainly was a lot of craziness this last year in the world. But we'll stick to just the Celtics basketball and we won't talk about anyone eating pets or anything like that. Um,
Okay.
Happy New Year, Mike. How you doing?
Well, fantastic. Fantastic. Ready for this West Coast trip. I think does it start tonight?
It starts tonight over in Minnesota, which we're gonna get into that.
Ooh,
Well, let's do it right now. Let's do the West Coast trip and we'll do the takes at the end. It shows how organized we are going into this pod. Minnesota, Mike, the last three games, two in overtime, and then Celtics kind of had their lead run down and they held on to win by two this season. And here we are back again in Minnesota against a team that has really been struggling. I think is the best way to put it. They I don't think that trade has worked out well for them at all. Moving on from
a
Kyle Anthony
couple.
down, I think Randall's a really bad fit there. Um, but I expect to get their best tonight. I think this is a team that desperately needs a win. They need to show something on the national stage. Um, but I expect another tough game here. And you brought up the Gobert stuff in the last pod. I don't know if you want to elaborate on what you think is going to happen or, kind of what's going on over there in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think that this is the type of game where it would be a good thing that the Celtics are shooting a lot of threes off drives to the paint because Gobert in the first matchup this year really clogged up the paint for the Celtics and took away a lot of looks. And he actually even closed out on three-point shooters, which was quite impressive in that first go around.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of pressure on Tatum and Brown to perform and to make shots on the offensive end. On the defensive end, I definitely think if the Celtics are locked in, I don't think Minnesota is too hard to defend. Obviously, Anthony Edwards is awesome, but I don't think he's necessarily surrounded by the right group. When Naz Reid comes in, that's a problem for any team in the NBA. But
Yeah.
Celtics typically match up well with Julius Randle, and I think your game plan should be having the ball stick in his hands for as much as possible. Randle does play well against the Celtics. He's got a good history, but he also has a history of ISO basketball.
Yeah.
Some bad turnovers in the fourth quarter. Tip kind of reminds me a little bit of Joel Embiid in that regard at the end of games. And so I think that would be my game plan is to try to make it all about Julius Randle. I think if Randle has big numbers and Anthony Edwards doesn't, that's probably a good thing.
Well, if Porzingis doesn't play, Horford has to make some shots. He's like one for his last 16 from three. You have to hold Gobert out. Right now, they're not going to cover him to start the game. I doubt. And I mean, meaning Al Horford. Porzingis and Brown are both listed as questionable for tonight. I think they kind of need them both for this road trip, or for at
I
least.
wouldn't play Chris. I wouldn't play Porzingis if he's questionable. I wouldn't play that guy until he's not questionable.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. And this has been it's going to be a struggle. I really feel that way without Porzingis against this Timberwolves team. And the key is going to be Horford has to make some shots. He just has to. He has to bring Gobert out because right now Gobert's not going to get out and cover on him. And it changes things because even if the Celtics get paint touches, right? The Timberwolves are very comfortable overplaying them because they have
Right.
Gobert there to help and
Yeah.
then they don't leave the shooters. So it really makes, one or two things need to happen. You need to either have Al make those threes, or you're gonna have to make some, which is unusual. You're gonna have to make some long twos against this team.
Jimmy, the other side of this is you're dug in defensively and you're able to get out on the fast break.
Yeah,
And you win the fast break points, which means you're also winning the free throw battle because you're getting out and running. If you're not making stops against Minnesota and Al's missing threes, you don't got a shot in hell. But if you're playing well defensively and Al's missing threes, you still got a shot at winning this game.
I agree. I just think the NBA is a half court game. Like you can get some fast break points and it can make a difference. But if you're not getting good offensive sets, usually everything's kind of connected together.
And your point about the long twos, maybe that's what Al needs to do. Maybe he needs to step in and take a couple.
He needs to hit
Just
three.
see something go in.
Yeah,
Just see it go in.
maybe to get him going, but he needs to
Yeah.
hit three. Like if there's one guy that needs to hit threes in this game, it's him. You have to pull Gobert out. It makes all the difference in the world on what you can do offensively. If there is
Or,
no fear of the shooter, it really makes things difficult.
or you and the Celtics have done this in the past. You go small and you put Jaylen Brown on Randall and you put Jason Tatum on Gobert, and that's what you do.
Yeah,
And they've
yeah. I
done
mean,
they've done it. And I could see obviously Minnesota beating you up inside, but
especially on the
defensively,
glass.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Gobert is a great offensive rebounder. Um, Yeah, no, I look, they've gone at Gobert in the past with success when he was over
yeah.
in Utah, but he has done a much better job of frustrating the Celtics since he's been with the Timberwolves, and I think we witnessed when he was with Utah. Um, so hopefully they can unlock some things offensively. Obviously, the other thing that just works if the Celtics have one of those games where they don't miss, then it doesn't really matter who they're playing. But I think Al is going to be really important tonight. He's
The other factor too, and
shots.
this is an important factor, is I feel like Anthony Edwards every time he plays the Celtics shows up.
Yeah,
And he on both ends. He disrupts the game defensively pretty big time. He plays the Celtics, and then he's hitting a lot of outside
he's a great
shots. So
player.
I think it's really important that
What,
both Tatum and Brown play at a high level tonight. And I think it's important too to kick off a tough road trip like this with a win. Um, I do think that is a big deal because if they don't, um, things get really difficult about coming home uh, at least at 500. I think it becomes difficult if they don't win this first one to get two of
well,
this
this
four.
is you hit on a really important point. This is an extraordinarily difficult trip. Like when you dig into not just the teams, but the schedule, how it sets up. They play Houston tomorrow night, and Houston's not a team you really want to play in a back-to-back with the amount of energy they have and how they fly around defensively. So that's going to be a challenge. And then they play Sunday at 3. So third game, 4 nights, not impossible in the NBA. Teams still have success, but difficult. But
Oh,
three
that's good though
o'clock.
that they get Friday. No, wait. Oh, they only get a day off.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically on these road trips you get
Yeah. So
two
they
days off.
so they play Friday night, they get Saturday off, then they play 3 o'clock Sunday
Oh,
against what, in my opinion, is the best offensive team in the NBA in Oklahoma City. And like the way they're able, you talk about Minnesota being able to come out on 3-point shooters and have the help inside. Oklahoma City does it even better than Minnesota, because their surrounding cast around their big man is just better fit to do it. They all can defend the perimeter. They all are interchangeable. They're all a pain in the ass. The only break you get with them is they're not as great offensively as other teams are, but they're they are terrors. They're terrors. So you go from Minnesota with the challenges they give you defensively, and then Houston, it's pretty clear that they dig in and they're young and they're energetic and they fly around. And then you only get a day off and then a 3 o'clock tip off against the best team in the West and the best defensive NBA team. So,
and then you end the trip against
God.
a team you haven't beat, what, 3 years
Mhm.
in Denver?
And the best offensive challenge of the trip in Denver. Uh,
They,
be- because of what they can create against you in the pick and
Now,
roll.
is that game on a Wednesday? I would hope.
Um,
You don't
they
have to look it up, but I would
no,
think,
I have it right in front of me. So they play Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
wow, that is usually on these road trips, you have a game or two where you have 2 days off in between. Um,
At least it's not 4 and 5. So it's 4 and 6, um, which again is doable in the NBA. But yeah, yeah, it's a tough one. It's ending in Denver when you're tired and have to go play at the altitude is not exactly the best way to end a trip either.
and the way they're playing, and I really don't count the Toronto game as much as I know they hit shots,
No,
but Toronto sucks.
they won
Um,
last night though.
good for them. Um, the way the Celtics are playing right now kind of gives me pause.
Yeah,
Well, let's see what shows up because
I, I
this could be a disaster of a trip. This has the potential to be a disaster.
well, yeah, of
It
course.
really does.
I don't think it will be. I have a little bit more faith on how this is going to go. I think it's difficult. I'm really excited to watch it. I think we're going to learn a lot about the 2024, 2025 Celtics in this next week and
Yeah,
how
I
they
think we are
respond and
too.
how they fight. And I think it's going to be interesting. And the championship team last year, they were a championship team. So what are they going to show us now? It's going to be fun to see.
Yeah. I think tonight's kind of a must win. Uh, you really don't have those in the regular season, but for the sake of this road trip, and if they want to sniff the 1 seed at all, I think they got to start winning some more games. But um, yeah, I think the front end of the trip is a little bit easier. I do think tonight and tomorrow, even on a back to back in Houston, just because of Houston's limitations offensively. I feel like if you show up on the defensive end in these two games against Minnesota and Houston, like you dig in defensively, you get a shot at both these games. Almost no matter how you're playing offensively, if you show up defensively against these two, you get a shot. Now, an afternoon game on a Sunday after these two games in Oklahoma City. I'm sorry, Jim. I just don't give the Celtics. I don't give any NBA team a shot in that game. If you want me to be honest, maybe Cleveland wins because they just beat everybody this year. But playing these two and then going to play in OKC on a Sunday and then ending the trip in Denver, I find it hard to believe that the Celtics going to be it's going to be really hard for the Celtics to win those two games. But these first two, I give the Celtics a really good shot if they play the right way. And by
Yeah,
playing the right way, I mean on the defensive end. I'm talking like, let's see them play the type of defense with the type of intensity that they play in the playoffs in the past and bring it these two nights. They do that. Um, I'll feel good about this trip. I don't think I'm going to see a lot on Sunday and on Tuesday. I'll be looking for effort from the Celtics, but I'm not going to be looking so much for results and wins. But these two on Thursday and
oh,
Friday,
I'm looking for results in two areas. I think the effort will be there, but I have concerns about their
but
execution.
they just might not have legs in those two
Well,
games.
well, these first two games particularly, I'm looking for two things.
Yeah, they.
I'm looking for how they defend the pick and roll.
Mhm.
Like, are there changes or are they going to trap Anthony Edwards? Are they, does Drew Holiday make that much of a difference where he can just fight over a screen and you don't have to switch and worry about the drop coverage? Can we see a
If
little
he's
bit?
locked in, yeah, he
Yeah.
does.
So let's see that. And then the other thing I want to see is their on-off minutes with Tatum. I think that's a huge issue for this team. I think it's been hidden a little bit. Those numbers are disguised a little bit because you've had two major blowouts against the
Yeah.
Pacers and the Raptors, where those numbers are kind of, thrown off. But in games that matter, they've really struggled. They've really struggled when he's come off the court. So what does that look like on the road in big time situations? Those things I'm looking for over these first two games and throughout the West Coast trip. As far as the last two, I guess I'll have more of an opinion on them based on how these two go. But,
Yeah.
OKC has shown a tendency to not play up on national TV games. Like the spotlight's gotten a little bit bright. You saw that against Milwaukee. You saw that in the playoffs last year.
That's like the history of their franchise, right
Yeah,
there.
so like, does that continue? This is a pretty big one for them. And then Denver, we'll just see. Obviously, you can score in Denver.
And
Every
obviously, you don't know.
yeah.
Denver have a case. What we see with the Celtics right now, Denver's had a case of that the entire season. You
Oh,
do not know what team is showing up in Denver. You know that Jokic is showing up. You don't know if the rest of the team is. Although
yeah,
Russ got another triple double the other
yeah, his triple doubles are hollow. They've been hollow for 4 fucking years. Um,
night. It's still impressive the amount he has for his career. I mean,
for his career, the
yeah,
last 4 or 5 years, they mean nothing. Um, I still don't understand them bringing him in. Like you watch, it's the same stuff with him. He doesn't. He can't. Whatever. We'll get into Russell Westbrook as we move forward.
yeah.
So, Mike, you brought up Anthony Edwards. So this leads us right into our local bad takes for 2024. We're going to go to Felger and Maz.
On
Okay.
Anthony Edwards?
On Anthony Edwards and Jason Tatum. This was back
Oh, I get it. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
in May. Okay. This was back in May. And hopefully you can hear this and this.
Well, Mike, I just think Anthony Edwards is so handsome, except when he's stealing cars.
So this is a conversation. Oh, oh God. This is a conversation on whether who would you rather have for your franchise going forward.
Oh, this was a conversation everywhere.
What's that?
This was a conversation everywhere. This was a conversation. I got two hoop heads at work, Jeff and Mario. This was a debate during the playoffs last year with those guys. They were both on the Anthony Edwards train.
All right, let me know if you're able to hear this.
Sure.
Rather have Anthony Edwards or Jason Tatum? Ant-Man. Edwards. Really? Yeah. Ant-Man. Yeah. Look, and I get the argument. Well, Tatum's already been to a finals. How many Eastern Conferences has he gone to? There's a softness I see with him. He's not my favorite player on the team. There's something missing with him. Edwards is a badass. I would take Anthony Edwards. So he is a bad human. Anthony Edwards got Carl Anthony.
All right. So now
I do think James Stewart was interrupting there to say Jason Tatum.
no, he weighed in more on why Anthony Edwards is better because he got Karl Anthony Towns to play hard, and Tatum couldn't do it the last few years.
Oh my God.
All the winning Tatum's done in his career. All the
Oh
winning
my God.
he has done.
Tatum made the finals at 24 years old. 24.
Yeah, and he's made this is now Anthony Edwards' fifth year. He's on a 500 team, by the way, right now. And
Well, I wouldn't hold that against him, though. I wouldn't. I mean, Tatum was on a 500 team at that age. He was. Yeah,
Right.
Brad Stevens last year. They went 500. They were the eighth seed.
After he had already gone to conference finals, and that was his only season where he struggled. Anthony, like,
Well, he didn't struggle. I mean, Tatum put up numbers with the team.
on a team wise,
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards can do certain things that are fantastic. Obviously, he's a great offensive player. He's a good defensive player. Tatum's
Absolutely.
6'9" that covers centers, facilitates an offense. Fills up the stat sheet. The idea that this guy isn't tough is just extraordinary to me. But they weren't done, Mike. They weren't done. There's more.
Can I comment on that too?
Go for it.
I think for me it's the toughness thing. That's where you're spot on. I think that take was probably happening during Tatum's playoff shooting slump. That's what I'm assuming. Because that's when Anthony Edwards was going off, probably against Denver. I'm assuming the second round before he talked shit about Kyrie and got lit up by Dallas. But I yeah, the Jason Tatum talk on Felger and Maz, Jimmy, it's been going on for years. These guys wanted to trade him for Roy Hashimura in the Washington Wizards in Bertans. They wanted that trade. They had a caller call in.
Well, let's get
so this has just been garbage.
Let's get to the second half of this, then you can weigh in more.
Sure.
And I say Edwards is 6'4", but plays bigger. Tatum is 6'9" and plays a little smaller.
Tatum covered Daniel Gafford.
Would you rather be the next 5 years, the Celtics or the Timberwolves?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, who would I rather be, Anthony Edwards or Jason Tatum? In which case, I would say Anthony Edwards. The Celtics have the better team. The Celtics have the better team.
Who would you rather be, the Celtics behind Jason Tatum going forward or the Timberwolves behind Anthony Edwards going forward?
Minnesota.
I think it's an important point here is that
I think it's an important point here.
There it is.
Like,
So there's a couple of things
Oh,
you could
God.
dig into there. There's a
they're
couple-
like one of the most popular sports radio shows in the country. You realize that, right?
Yes. Yes.
God.
So let's dig into this a little bit. So first of
My
all,
skin's crawling.
they say Edwards plays bigger and Tatum plays smaller.
Oh, yeah.
Tatum
I
spent the
remember-
whole NBA Finals covering a center. You know, he's basically averaging a double this season. He can cover all 5 positions, by the way. How does Tatum play small? Someone
This
needs
is
to
the
explain
national
that to me.
talk, too. This isn't just them.
This is national talk. Yeah, and then on top of it, they said they'd rather be the Timberwolves than the Celtics for the next 5 seasons.
Yeah, they did. That's what they said.
And so, just to like stay on track, starting last season, who won the championship
That would be the Boston Celtics.
and who has a better chance of winning a championship this year.
Celtics. Yeah, Celtics do.
And just going forward based on
Minnesota can't even afford plays. That's why they traded away a player.
they can't even
So
afford.
they didn't do any research into any of this at all.
And who's Minnesota's first of all, I think Tatum's a better player than Anthony Edwards. I think he offers more than Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards is a great player, don't get me wrong, but I just think Tatum's versatility, his DNA with winning, what he can just give you on both sides of the floor as a facilitator, as a rebounder, as a scorer, all those things, makes him a consistent top 5 player. I'm not sure.
I agree with you. I will say
Anthony Edwards has cracked that top 5 yet.
I will say this. I think if Anthony Edwards can, I don't think Anthony Edwards is too far off from being in that conversation of the top 5 players and being in the conversation with Jason Tatum one day. I think he can get there. I do think I think he can be that good. I don't think Edwards, but I think Jason Tatum is by far the better player right now.
And I just think what Tatum's size and skills set just offers a little bit more. And there's the things that Anthony Edwards can't do because he's just not big enough. He's not the same size, and that's not his
The attraction to Edwards, I think, is just like that dog in him, that hope from our generation and your generation for that wanting that Michael Jordan character and that Kobe Bryant character back in the NBA. I think the one player that resonates with that type of guy that reminds us of those two is probably Anthony Edwards, because he plays shooting guard. There aren't a ton of shooting guards really left in the NBA beyond him, Jaylen Brown and some others. It's really wing players. So I think it's kind of that old school hope that he becomes that. And I do think he could. But yeah, I think potential and talent, Tatum can do much more. I agree, but I don't think it's crazy to say that Anthony Edwards could be one of the best players in the league one day.
All right, Mike, no one else had bad takes in 2024?
But their takes were horrible. I just want to, they're idiots. But yeah, who else had bad takes? You and me?
You and me. Yeah,
So
we
we
also had really bad takes. I'm going to read yours first, and then you have mine as well. And so maybe I'll cue up some dramatic music for this as we go forward. But are you ready? Are you listening?
I'm sure it's horrible. I can't wait to hear it.
I know Scal's defending them like, oh, the guy's going to play through this. When the fuck in the playoffs are you not going to call a timeout on a 34-4 run? What are we preparing them for? When are you going to call a timeout? That doesn't make any sense. How are we not preparing them for the playoffs? By not calling a timeout? That's a throwaway. Joe Mazzulla threw away the game. And we've seen this before in the playoffs with him last year. Not calling timeouts during big runs. It's
That's
a trend.
true. That's
It's scary. And I'm really nervous about him as the head coach of this team moving forward. With him making mistakes that are going to be really costly. He's going to cost them a series, Jim. He's going to cost them a series.
well.
That was you after the Atlanta Hawks 2 games.
Oh, we blew like a 30-point lead in the first half.
Yeah. So this is raw emotion, Mike. And obviously the Missoula stuff was a trend with you for about a year that he was going to be cost. I mean, it was reasonable based on what happened in the playoffs last year, but this was really digging in. You were
Hey, man. Hey,
I loved it. And so
that's a good
how
one.
how would you rate that as a take?
I'd say that's a very bad take. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's hit like 8 as a bad one.
Yeah.
No, it's up there. It's like that's an embarrassing take. He'll certainly be challenged a lot more in this playoff run than he was last year. But he coached circles around Jason Kidd in the NBA Finals last year, didn't he?
Sure did.
I mean, Kidd's team like refused to shoot threes, refused to, and they needed to hit above the break threes to beat the Celtics. It's like a stupid game plan.
And
the way they attacked Tyler Hero in the first round was all a joke. That was all joke. That Miami set, I don't know if you remember, there was like 10 possessions in a row. Maybe it was game 3 where the Celtics just attacked that matchup.
Yeah.
That's a horrible take. Horrible.
And the coach that was getting questioned down the end of games last year, when we're talking about close games in that Pacers series, was Rick Carlisle. It wasn't.
That's right.
It was Carlisle's use of timeouts and how he executed down the stretch. And Missoula was praised for how he handled it.
Yeah, so it was the opposite,
And if you went in and, at the beginning of the season and say, who would you trust in those games? Around. Yep. So a lot of people were saying this, not just you, Mike, and he turned it on his head. And it wasn't just the end of game stuff. It was fouling when you're up 6, understanding what a 3 would mean instead of 2 free throws. It was, when you needed to tip a rebound, putting Cornette in that second.
A lot of ISO with Jason Tatum at the end of games that wasn't working out. Yeah.
How they defended, like you said, against Dallas. So it was a lot of things that he did really, really well. And
to my defense, I will say as a Celtics fan, and maybe you feel this too, it's a lot of post-traumatic stress when it comes to the use of timeouts and ending runs from the Brad Stevens years as a coach. I'll just put that out there. I used to freak out during the playoffs with that guy.
Yeah,
because I feel like he would just hold on to these timeouts and drive me fucking nuts.
And so, Mike, he was bad. He
was bad.
Your take was bad, but this one, and we'll get to my take in a second. But
hey, Perk! Can you imagine what he said? What did this guy say?
Here we go.
The Celtics NBA champion who hates the Celtics.
Mike, you're talking over it. You're talking over it. Hold on. Here it is.
More threes than you. And, when they do and they hit him, he looks great. And then you have the other Joe Mazzulla who just stands over there and you wonder, if you take his brain out and you put it in the bird is going to start flying backwards. Okay, you got that Joe Mazzulla. You know why I say that? No. Because he doesn't get these guys easy looks, possibly.
You know why I say that?
Oh my
God. I love that. You know why I say that? No.
Richard Jefferson was calling Perk a fucking idiot without saying you're a fucking idiot. Like Richard Jefferson's face is just like, why do I have to work with this guy? They extended his contract.
Well, and he wonders why the Celtics are pissed at him. He didn't just knock the coach. He called him a bird brain, and worse than that, a bird brain that flies backwards. So
very offensive to birds too.
Your take was bad on Missoula, but I don't think it was quite as bad as Perk. And so far, if I'm ranked, and we're gonna at the end, we both can choose our worst take of 2024. In the race for worst takes, that one is in the lead for me right now.
No way. It's Nick Wright picking Dallas at 5.
We'll get to him in a minute.
Oh, that's in this list. I'll say this about Perk. This is where I think it comes from, and this is my defense of this guy, because of course I'm going to defend my 08 champion that we should have never traded away because we didn't want to pay for him to be here. But listen, man. He was working for the Celtics TV network, whatever, with Scals and those guys, and he probably went into this ESPN job saying, "I got to be over the top against the Celtics in order to be taken serious nationally." That's my only defense for him. And I think maybe he's just not, he lacks some intelligence in some areas to know how to actually do it correctly without offending people and, being mean. That was a horrible thing to say about Missoula.
All right, now you have a take from me, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I got to read this one. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, folks. This is Jimmy's bad take after the Celtics lost the playoff game to the Miami Heat. All right? I would love to see the Celtics respond. And they're more than capable. It should take the next 3 games. But, unfortunately, Mike, it just feels like a movie we've seen before. And a team that, we start in the first quarter of game 1, the fourth quarter of game 1, that they're just not consistently relentless like a championship team should be. And it doesn't give me a lot of confidence as these playoff games move forward. And I do believe they're going to get past Miami. The number of games for that, I'll stick to my prediction 5, but who knows? But I do have major concerns as we move forward. And I didn't pick them to win the title, but before this, playoff started, I said it would be Denver. This gives me even less confidence in the Celtics than I had before. Wow, what a stupid fucking statement from Jimmy.
Yeah. I mean, not only the Celtics part, the Denver couldn't even get out of the second round.
Would they lose 2 more games for the rest of the playoffs?
I know.
I don't even know.
Not even competitive. Not even competitive. So that was a pretty terrible one. No excuse.
To your defense, that kind of loss in game 2 against Miami, I mean, come on. We had like 5 straight years of those losses.
Yeah, but I think I was like shell-shocked from those losses because if you go back and you just kind of watch that Miami game, that was just an insane shooting game by Miami, and the Celtics just couldn't make a shot, and you can win.
Cleveland did the same thing in the next round.
You can win and lose against anybody one-off, and, maybe if we were grounded and not having PTSD from the other, we would have seen it that way, but the worst take for me was the Denver and the Celtics not winning the title. I mean, there was so much evidence during the season that the Celtics were the best team in the league. And
they had lost to Denver twice that year.
They had. Yeah, they have. Are you ready for another national take?
Of course. Yeah, it's probably ESPN. Some idiots there. So I hear what they have to say.
Yeah, not quite ESPN.
Well, look, I know that with Tatum and with Brown, the first thing you look to if you're going to make the argument going the other way is the fact that
Luka and Kyrie, all that defense they play.
Two-way players as being not just offensive threats but defensive. Right, yeah. But Luka and Kyrie have closed the gap when it comes to that. Kyrie in particular.
Yes, he has.
The work that he did, that he's done in these playoffs and that he did in this last series, he's checking Anthony Edwards and he's giving him everything in him. Now, obviously, he's getting help. But the work that he did was impressive. So that gap is not as big as it once was. And then I look at the other side of things, and in 1.5 seasons, Kyrie and Luka have meshed better than Jalen and Jason have after 6 seasons. In terms of how they're
is that real?
These complement each other, and that's not how it started.
That's Rick Bucher, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, it's Rick Bucher. Yeah, so
he was just arguing that Kyrie and Luka were closing the gap defensively on Tatum and Brown.
Well, the worst is like they've meshed the amount of the Kyrie like ball washing that was going on, and he's meshed better with Luka in 1.5 years, and like he's still Kyrie. Like I just. He was good. But was anyone surprised of how much he shit his pants when he went into the Boston Garden? Was anyone surprised by this? And then was it like, I don't understand all these people that said they were smart basketball people that looked at this series.
And picked
Dallas when the Celtics were the worst possible matchup the Mavericks could play. Like this was the best possible matchup for the Celtics to get. And we said that before the series started. And the playoffs are just about matchups. And speaking of idiots that don't understand, that, see things a certain way or whatever and think they're smart and can talk about matchups. Get a load of this fool.
Let's pick it. UD, you're up first. Who do you have winning the whole darn thing?
He hates the Celtics.
I think Dallas is deeper. You talk about they got Exum on the bench, they got Green coming off the bench, they got Lively coming off the bench. Tim Hardaway Jr., who doesn't get much playing time, is also coming off the bench. I think they can guard these guys better. Oftentimes, NBA playoff games are about matchups. I just think they match up better. They can switch pick and rolls and take them out of all the triggers. And I think Dallas is going to attack Porzingis.
All right, real quick. In how many games and who's the finals MVP? Quickly.
7 games, and I got Luka being MVP.
Okay.
At least he said 7.
I got the Mavs in 6 in Dallas. Can't see anybody going to Game 7 in Boston in that environment and winning for an NBA championship on the line. And I'm going to have to go with Luka. I think Kyrie will warrant consideration, but Luka is obviously a global icon.
All right. I'm going Celtics in 6, Tatum finals MVP.
Wow.
Again, going against the grain.
I love that. I love that. It's really interesting. Y'all said Boston's favored, but you both picked Dallas, so I understand that. I'm going Dallas. Also, Luka MVP in 6.
We're not done on this series, Mike. We're not done.
Think that they are ready for this.
Oh, my brain hurts.
That they're about to deal with, and that's not their fault. The Celtics come into these finals, one of 7 teams in NBA history under the current playoff format in an 82-game season to never face a 50-win team. And those sub-50-win teams they played were all injured.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Mavs come into these finals, we can show you, having played one of the hardest paths by how many wins the other team has in NBA history. Every team they played won at least 50
What does that have to do with the matchup?
If they win the championship, by a win percentage metric, we can show you the next one, it will be the 3rd hardest championship, again, purely as far as what the team's record was and all of that.
Can we turn it off? God.
Round 1, the teams they're playing.
Yeah. So
it's like word vomit. Jesus.
And
It would have been impressive. Yeah, if Dallas won, it would have been really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and his point was, and he says this, and I'll read basically what he says. By the time the Celtics adjust to playing real playoff basketball, the Mavs are going to be up 3-1. That's from Nick Wright in a tweet following that clip. So we saw all those takes. We talk about matchups, and Haslam, brings that up and uses the Mavericks being a bad matchup for the Celtics, which again blows my mind. Blows my mind. An isolation basketball team.
Yeah.
Celtics,
especially a guy who played on Miami and who performed. We gotta, he's on that team. He's in those meetings that you gotta hit. We gotta get off from 3.
How did attacking Porzingis in Game 1 work? By the way.
Oh my God.
Not very well, did it?
No.
Not very well.
Well, I mean, you had to. You had to.
But how did it work?
It didn't work out.
It didn't work at all. It didn't work.
All.
So if you maybe that's what you had to do, but it did not work. How did it work out for the Celtics attacking that great defensive player of Kyrie?
Well, that one play,
Luka.
Kyrie's back's turned from the ball.
Yeah.
That's my favorite highlight.
How did Luka hold up defensively? How did Luka play in the finals, just as a whole, where he missed 18 straight 3-pointers? 18.
Yeah. I mean, he had some. He was finishing at the hoop. And he was setting guys up. Yeah, defensively he was really bad.
He was really bad.
Really, and what's scary is that I thought Luka was going to come back in great shape this year.
How much criticism did he receive with all these bad takes if Tatum had lost that finals based on the way he shot?
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Can you imagine the criticism he would have got? And Tatum, by the way, rebounded at a high level, assisted at a high level, defended at a high level.
I told you that I thought Jason Tatum was going to be the best passer in the series, and you were telling me no way he could do what Luka does. I told you that.
And he did.
Yeah.
He did. So, Mike, worst take of 2024.
Oh, my God. Obviously, yours, fucking idiot. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think, Haslam at least had 7 games, so I think he was just being a Miami Heat homer, so I'm not going to go after him. Perk, I think, is just trying too hard to not look like a Celtic, so I'm not going to go after him. Man, I gotta say Nick Wright. I'm gonna go after Nick Wright because I know he picked the Mavs in 5. So I mean, how could you look at that and say they were gonna win in 5? That was a horrible take.
I have it as a tie. If you know, Murray and Maz calling basically Tatum.
I even forgot about that. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
There was so many takes.
calling Tatum a soft player really, I think, is problematic. And the last part is I give it a tie with Perk. I think, you know, doing the whole Bill thing is just over the top ridiculous. Funny. And he gets points for at least being funny. So those are the ones I go with. Mike, this was a fun episode to do. Any hot takes for 2025?
Oh no, there's no advice from Pastor Mike today.
Oh, let's see.
If you don't have time, we can hold off, Kevin. Sorry.
It's Pat. I gotta find the question here.
Let me get into my spiritual realm.
Okay.
Mm,
This is a weird one.
all right.
Um,
around here.
All right, Pastor Mike. You know what? Let's save this for the next pod. I think.
Oh, come on.
You want to do it? You want to do it? Okay, all right. Is it acceptable to take power naps in the restroom during long meetings while you're at work? Or how do I effectively fix my? Well, let's just stick with the power naps.
Okay, is it okay to take power naps at work?
In the restroom.
In the restroom.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Absolutely. Don't you agree? I mean, you got to get through the day. You got to be effective, right?
I think that's absolutely disgusting. I think it's completely and totally gross. I've been
in your work bathroom. Your work bathroom's like very nice. That's a very nice bathroom.
It's nice. I've seen it not so nice. I'd never really know for sure what was in there before me. At any time,
I can tell you that I've taken a number 2.
Anytime
it's a nice bathroom.
Anytime I'm in a bathroom that isn't owned by me, I want to move on as quickly as possible. I mean, even if I'm at a home that I'm familiar with and you know that I like, but I'm there with other company besides the homeowner, I want to move on quickly because I don't know what happened in there earlier.
So your thing is power naps are okay, but it's not okay inside.
No, power naps at work are not okay. You probably need to look in the mirror